Today I wanted to show you all of my colouring book collection. However, I have around 90 or so colouring books and a lot of them haven't actually been coloured in yet. So I figured instead of showing you my entire, mostly empty colouring book collection, I will instead show you the very first adult colouring book that I purchased, along with the colouring supplies that I used to use with my colouring books. And then I will show you my much more recent colouring book purchases and the products that I use nowadays. So to start with, I began adult colouring in 2012, and my very first adult colouring book was the Creative Colouring Book for Grown-Ups. And this is essentially just a book of patterns. And I used, as you can probably tell, pens and gel pens. I didn't really use colouring pencils much back then, although I did have a set of colouring pencils that I primarily used for like small background details. But for the most part, I stuck with Tri-Plus fine liners or Tri-Plus fibre tipped pens, or let me see if I can locate some. Cheap generic brand gel pens. I had like a 120 set of these in a variety of metallics, glitters, colour change, pastels, and just standard colours. And that's what I coloured with. And yeah, for the most part, it was just colouring in patterns with pens. They used to sometimes do like, I think there were various sets of these that came with like a Johanna Basford or a Millie Morta design on them, because they were marketed to be sold as pens for adult colouring. And back then, colouring hadn't really taken off as much as it has now, so it was mostly like you'd get the odd article here and there about colouring for mindfulness or colouring to relieve stress. And the colouring books that were marketed to adults were typically like this one, that just had geometric patterns, maybe some floral designs. I mean, even when Johanna Basford came out, it was still primarily sort of like floral designs. And when Millie Morta came out, it was still the whole Zentangly, Zendoodly designs, just with like clean line work for animals. I have my first Millie Morta book to hand actually. So I purchased this one in 2015. I believe it was published late 2014. And yeah, it was just Zentangly, Zendoodly designs that you would presumably colour in with gel pens or fine liners, and that was all there was to it. That was adult colouring in the early 2010s. Now, so the pens that I had were these, and gel pens, which I'm not going to get out because they're just everywhere. And I had my set of W.H. Smith colouring pencils, which you can see didn't actually get a lot of love because they're all still kind of full size pretty much. I think this one got some use because it's blunt, but for the most part I don't believe I've ever actually sharpened any of these, which is how much they got used. that being not very much at all. So yeah, 2012 to sort of 2014, 2015, 2016, this is what colouring looked like. You had your WH Smith products, you had your fine liners, and you had your colouring pattern books. And I do actually have a whole bunch of these. I've got this one, the gorgeous colouring book for grown-ups, the vintage patterns colouring book for grown-ups, the Can't Sleep colouring book. I've got the first one and only colouring book for adults. And then I've also got like some mandala books, because after a few years of pattern books, it became all about mandalas. And then there's also like various patterny animal type books. So you've got your Millie Morotters, and then you also had things like Valentina Harper, which I've got a book of. I said I wasn't going to show all of my colouring books, but I do have just like a few examples from the early days to hand already. But yeah, you had books like this, books by Richard Merritt, the Menagerie, the Aviary, the Aquarium, the Labyrinth, and then of course the big famous ones that started coming out in sort of 2014, 2015, 2016 were your Johanna Basford, which I never purchased any of, your Millie Morotters, which I have purchased every single one of, and then there was Kirby Rosanna's with the Animorphia, Imagimorphia, etc. I believe they came out around 2016, 2017. Just see if I can check. Where the publishing info is on this. Oh, 2016. Yeah, 2016. So this is Imagimorphia, which was the second one. So Animorphia likely came out in 2015. So yeah, it's the same sort of era. But this is obviously very different to something like this. Quite a creative leap between the two, I think. But yeah, so that's what colouring looked like for me as a young adult in 2012 to 2016. And then from 2016 to 2023, I continued buying colouring books, primarily just the Kirby Rosanna's and the Millie Morotter ones, but I did not colour anything in at all. Like, I was just collecting the books at that point. I'd reached a stage in my life where I was so obsessed with the idea of perfection that if I wasn't 100% certain that I could do something perfectly, then I just wouldn't do it. And colouring, which was supposed to be a stress-relieving exercise for me, became this daunting task that was like a test of my skills, and I wasn't sure I could measure up. Therefore, I couldn't put pen to paper, because if I messed up the page, then I messed up the whole book, and it was ruined, and it would be an embarrassment, and I'd have made a fool of myself, and all of these other completely ridiculous notions that would just fly through my head all of the time that prevented me from colouring. But in 2023, I started colouring again, and the scenery for colouring these days is a lot different to how it used to be. So these days you still have your Millie Morotters, your Kirby Rosanna's, your Johanna Basfords, but now you also have things like your, try not to shake the whole desk, your mythographics. I did actually, I believe it was either in 2019 or 2020 that the first mythographic book was published, Animals by Joseph Cattingbang. I did see it in a store. It was like WH Smith or Waterstones or something, and I saw it and I was like, wow, this book is like if Millie Morotter and Kirby Rosanna's books like came together and had a baby. because they were animal pictures that were really complicated, but they had like the doodly style that Kirby Rosanis is known for. And I was like, oh, these are amazing, but I can't justify buying them because I don't actually do any colouring. I just buy the Millie Mortar and Kirby Rosanis books. So I can't really start a third series of book collecting if I'm not actually going to colour any of them in. So I added them to my Amazon wish lists and just kind of ignored them for the most part. But then more kept coming out, and more and more and more, and before I know it there was just like over a dozen mythographic books, and I didn't have any of them, and I wanted them, but I also knew that I wasn't really going to colour in them because I had this like perfectionist complex where I wasn't sure I was good enough to colour in them. But when I started colouring again in 2023, obviously I then felt justified to actually start purchasing new books again. So now I have quite a large collection of mythographics, which again, I'm not going to show you my entire collection because they're books that most people have probably already seen before, but I will show you some pages that I've coloured or am colouring. So to hand, I don't actually have many of my mythographics actually. No, those are downstairs, but I do have some of my Millie Mortar colouring pages that I've coloured in, so I will show you those. So we started with our fine liners and our pattern colouring books, and these days we colour with pencils, not W.H. Smith pencils. This one was coloured with Castle Arts, and then this was coloured with Derwent Inktense and Albajuras and Thule Art paint pens and Artex acrylic markers. So we started with these, and now we have these and these and oh, that's heavy. Oh. These, that's all of my Castle Arts. So I've got the Harmonious, the Pastel Tint, the Metallics, and just the standard ones. And then I don't actually use these much anymore either, because what I have now, as I just said a moment ago, is my... I am not getting those out, that's going to cause like a massive... actually, I might be able to. Just give it a go. Don't fall. Please don't fall. Oh no, 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 ouch, oh dear. Sorry about that. So I've got my Derwent Inktense. I have the whole set of 100, although I only ever actually purchased a set of 48. There was some kind of mishap with the delivery, and they somehow ended up delivering me a much larger set than what I'd ordered or paid for, which was crazy because I basically spent around £45 because they were on... I bought a small set that was on sale, so it was around 40 quid, and I ended up getting the full 100 set, which is madness, but a nice madness. And the other pencils I like to use what have I done with them? My Faber-Castell Albijuras. Now this is a small set. I do actually own the full set as well, which is right here, all 120. However, this is my most well used and well loved set. My white pencil. You compare that to the W.H. Smith pencils that never got sharpened, and then you look at these, which are, many of them, just kind of little babies. I think it was Amy Shulk who once said that your colouring pencils are like children, and the more you have, like, the more you need to learn about. And yeah, so these are my little babies. I think I've got a few others that are quite short as well. That green's not very tall. Yeah, this isn't a neatly organised set because I'm constantly just going in and out of it. And let's compare that to a pencil that I haven't used much of, which will be like this one. Yeah. So these are well used and well loved. And every time I tell myself, oh, I'm just going to use like standard pencils, or I'm going to use just the Derwent Intense, I end up still pulling these out and using them because they are just, by and large, my absolute favourites. Some of these are actually part of the full set. I've got them out because I'm currently colouring in a very dark tree in Fantasy Forest. But yeah, I'll just put all these away. So, that is a comparison of what I used to use compared to what I currently use. And I just get my, where did it go? What I used to colour compared to what I colour now. To be honest, that flamingo page isn't the favourite page of mine that I've coloured, so I'm going to show a different one for comparison. I will do, where is it? Here we go. Then, now. Bit of a difference. So yeah, bit of a short video, but I figured a short video was better than a long one where I just show you nearly 100 books that are all not particularly coloured in. And yeah, colouring has changed a lot in the last decade. You don't see anyone colouring in books like this anymore. Because they would be considered very boring. And I mean, even this is considered an older style book. So the more recent ones, where have they gone? The more recent ones, as I mentioned, are like the mythographics. This is the page I'm working on currently. But then you've also got your Millie Marottas. Getting all my words mixed up. You've got like your Lulu Mayos. And of course the current trend, which I'm sure you are probably aware of, is obviously like all the bold and easy style colouring books like Coco Wyo, Jade Summer, Hold Your Folk, things like that. I don't own any of those, but I sure am tempted, especially the Jade Summer ones. They just look so fun because they're so simple, but it just means that you have more possibilities on each page, like you can do your own thing. Oh yeah, this is my poor mother llama, bless her. She had to have facial reconstructive surgery because I was using Pitt pens. Sorry, that's another art product I have. I have Faber-Castell Pitt pens. These are a bit special though because I didn't actually purchase them. I won them. I coloured in a Millie Mortar picture last year as part of her launch campaign for her latest book. It was, I've got the picture nearby actually, it was the axolotl page. Not that one. Not that one. This one. Yeah, so it was a random drawing of 10 winners, and I was one of the lucky 10, and I won with this picture. And I got a free signed copy of Precious Planet, so now I have 2 copies of Precious Planet. I got these very fancy Faber-Castell Pitt pens, 48 set, and they are very beautiful to work with. And I got some Millie Mortar postcards that I have hidden on a shelf. Not coloured in any of these, but they are potentially fun little activity to do. Got a few extras because there was a delay in sending them all. But yeah, I do like Millie Mortar's works. I think she is one of my favourite artists. I know lots of people are really big on Kirby Rosanna's, and I really like him too. Lots of people like Johanna Basford, and I do like her books, but I don't own any of them. And then obviously lots of people are big fans of the mythographics these days, and I do really like Fabiana Attanasio, Joseph Kattenbang and Veronica Kolinska mythographic books. But Millie is just, yeah, I think she will always be my favourite. And it was actually the Millie Mortar Colouring Obsessionals Facebook group which helped get me back into colouring. That tortoise that I showed you a picture of, I'll just get it up again. Sorry, look at me just making a mess all over my desk. Where did I put you? Oh, there we go. No, not that book. Sorry, I'm just having a blonde moment. This book. Yeah, so this, back in 2024, the Facebook group that I'm in was doing a group project where you could sign up and put your name against one of the pages in the book, and then you had to colour that page in, and then once everyone, well, there was a deadline, and once everyone had submitted their pages, it was all put together in like a slideshow, and I decided to participate, and I did my tortoise, and that was my very first completed colouring page for Millie Mortar, this tortoise done with my Castle Art pencils. Yeah, I am quite proud of it, considering until this point I hadn't really used pencils much, and I definitely hadn't done anything as complicated as a Millie page, and I absolutely hadn't done anything like sharing my colouring with a community where I was at risk. Well, no, I wasn't really at risk of being judged. There's such a positive, friendly, welcoming community, which is why I colour so much more now. But that first time that you post pictures, like, you do get very apprehensive, like, oh, what if people tell me it's rubbish, or what if nobody reacts at all because it's just so mediocre that they've got nothing to say, but that has literally never been an issue. The things that we think in our heads are just so ridiculous. Like, you get all this negativity just building up inside you, and it can be so paralyzing that you just don't do any of the things that you enjoy or want to do. And then when you actually break through that and do the things that you enjoy, it's just so liberating. And it makes me so much happier now that I can actually participate in a hobby that I've enjoyed for over a decade, when I spent a good 7 years of that decade just kind of wistfully wishing that I could. So yeah, I'm in a much better place now. And yes, I do have around 90 colouring books, but colouring books do not expire, and I will colour in all of them eventually. And I hope, if you're still watching, that you will continue to watch me as I work on myself, work on my colouring books, and hopefully develop some new skills as I go along. So yes, thank you for watching, and hopefully I will be back with more videos for you to watch soon. Bye!